Welcome back to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James, and this week I am covering another iceberg chart, and specifically this week I'm covering the weird/creepy stuff iceberg from Reddit user u/b-on. As usual, this iceberg will be linked in the show notes in case you want to look at it and do your own research. And because I'm covering most of the topics, it's not going to be going massively in depth on each topic. Now, two more things I want to cover before we get into this episode. The first being that I am leaving some of these topics out for a few reasons. It's either because I did not feel comfortable talking about it on my podcast, I could find little to no information at all on the topic, or I just couldn't find a way to describe it. And I did try to look for videos that also covered this iceberg chart, but I was not successful. But a good amount of these topics, like at bare minimum half, if not a little over half, have videos where people are talking about the individual topics. And I will be linking quite a few of them in the show notes as well, in case you want to watch that specific video. Now, the last thing I want to cover before we dive into this, and before we get to the first here, I'm going to be talking about a few ARGs. And I know, so a lot of people who listen to my podcast are range from a little younger than me to right around my age, maybe up to 5 years older than myself. So majority of you might know what an ARG is, but for those who might not know, it stands for alternate reality game. So it's just like a different version of a game where they kind of mix real life with online stuff. Now, because I am covering a few in this episode, you'll get a few examples of what an ARG is, but I just wanted to give you a small definition before we get into it. Now, with all of that being said, let's get on to Tier 1. And this is just basically the stuff a lot of people know about or at least heard of. The first thing under Tier 1 is Time Cube. This is a theory started by a man named Otis Eugene Jean Ray. He even started a now inactive website in 1997 about his theory. Jean claimed that all modern sciences are participating in a conspiracy to omit his theory, which basically states that each day actually consists of 4 days happening simultaneously, all at the same time. YouTuber Frederick Knudsen made a video on this, and this is one of the videos I will be linking in the show description. Next is Ted the Caver. I did cover this, or at least I'm pretty sure I covered this in one of my creepypasta episodes, but in case you haven't heard that episode or any of those episodes, this is considered to be the very first creepypasta dating all the way back to 2001. It was posted on an Angel Fire website by a man named Ted Hegeman. It was presented as a diary of a caver who was excavating a mostly unexplored cave. There are many podcasts and YouTubers who have read this or have covered it, but some include Creepy, Creepcast, and That Creepy Reading. But again, a lot of people have covered Ted the Caver at some point. Next is another creepypasta titled suicidemouse.avi. And again, a lot of people have covered this, have read it, presented it, what have you. There are a few different versions of the video, but these videos tend to be very similar in the fact that they are always black and white, and Mickey Mouse is always seems to be shown walking down a street, and as time goes on, the background becomes more and more deteriorated, more creepy, stuff like that. The fourth one on Tier 1 is Captain Coochie's Key Lime Pie. The podcast Red Web takes a deep dive into this topic, but it is a deep rabbit hole that I don't have time myself to dive into for this episode. That doesn't mean I'm not going to cover it myself, but like I said, it's a pretty deep hole. This is the super basics of the key lime pie, though. Some unknown person left strange reviews of a key lime pie for a restaurant that has been closed for decades. There's still no known purpose to the comments nor any idea of who this person is that left these comments. It's pretty weird. And I mean, I know I mentioned specifically Red Web. That's just the first like deep dive I personally heard into Captain Coochie's, but I'm sure other people have covered the topic as well. Next is ilovebees.com. Now, here's the first example of an ARG, but it served as a marketing campaign for 2004's Halo 2 and now redirects to 42entertainment.com/work/ilovebees. Next is Cicada 3301, and yet again, another ARG. It ran for 3 rounds between 2012 and 2014. And these rounds gave people like kind of brain teasers, cryptograms that they have to crack. And the purpose was said to be to recruit highly intelligent individuals, but there's no known higher purpose. They did eventually find those individuals they were looking for. There were other posts that were made claiming to come from Cicada 3301, but they, whoever they are, denied that the newer posts were not from them. Next is u/video games. This Reddit user came to attention on September 8th, 2010 when he commented on a thread asking users about their favorite Oblivion mods. This u/yay video games responded with the uninstall button. The game is great and all that, but God, is it hard to fully remove all the junk it leaves behind on your system. You really need to check out that mod when the time comes to get rid of it. Otherwise, I think Oscuro's Oblivion overhaul is a nice start. When people pressed him on what he meant by what he said, he ended up explaining the uninstall button. The game is great. Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye, always on DRM, but you oft go work. Always on work, DR, check out the junk it leaves behind in you. He then ended up spamming the thread with variations of Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye, always on DRM. And then he just suddenly stopped posting. And because this is an iceberg, I didn't look too deeply into it, so it might be at least somewhat resolved. If you look up Yay video games on YouTube or even just Google, you'll probably find someone who's talked about it and kind of given some closure on this topic. Next is rotten.com. This is one of the many shock sites from the Wild West days of the internet and was active from 1996 to 2012. The closest thing to this site would be r/5050 on Reddit. And part of the reason why I bring this one up is I'm not gonna lie, this is one site that I ended up visiting during the Wild West days. It was definitely a time. Next is horse_ebooks. This is a Twitter user who registered on the site in 2010, originally to promote ebooks. However, it soon became known for non sequiturs to evade spam detection. And because I don't frequent Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it now, I don't know if horse_ebooks is still online, never mind still posting or anything like that. Next is Red Room Animation. This is a flash animation from the early 2000s based on the Japanese urban legend The Red Room, which I did cover in one of my urban legend episodes. So if you want more details on the urban legend, you can go ahead and listen to that episode. But basically, like, for the animation, like a red pop-up will, come into the animation, basically. And that's what the quote-unquote Red Room is in this case. Now, our penultimate topic for Tier 1 is Shay St. John. Shay is a fictional character created by Eric Fournier. Her backstory is pretty dark. She was a supermodel who was disfigured in a train accident and rebuilt her body with a collection of mannequin parts. And now I did watch some of these videos, and it's very much, I feel like it's almost Uncanny Valley-esque. Not the same way like any of those like humanoid robots are Uncanny Valley, but there's just something uncanny about it, which makes sense because, as I mentioned, her backstory is the fact that she rebuilt her body with mannequin parts. And finally, the last topic for Tier 1 is Jerk City. The comic is now running under the title Bone Quest and started on August 17th, 1998. The comic strips were released almost every day since and seem to still be relatively regularly being posted. It's just like the weird thing about this is I feel like it's just like, it's not like super dark, but it could get dark at some points, at least based on the strips that I've read. Tier 2. All right, so for the first one, it's Untitled.com. Now, I couldn't find a lot of information on Untitled.com, and I know I said in the beginning that I am not really covering ones that I couldn't find a lot or no information on, but the homepage of Untitled.com is very interesting, which is why I left it in. So when you go to Untitled.com, you see a link that says log in, and underneath it says follow the instructions you received in the first email. And then underneath that it says new member, and under new member it reads, apply by submitting all required information to membership at Untitled.com. You should already know what information is needed. If you don't, please do not try or ask. Thank you. Like I said, I just thought that was interesting, kind of weird and a little sketchy, if you ask me. Next is Chip-chan. Now, this is another one where I might have to dig a little bit deeper into because her story is fascinating. But this is a fake name for a Korean woman of an unknown age claiming to have had a mind-controlled chip implanted in her head. She says that she is being held hostage by a corrupt police officer, only given the name P. Chip-chan used to live stream, but as far as I can tell, she hasn't live streamed in a while, but she does seem to continue to post on her blog spot, or at least up until recently. So like I said, her story is fascinating and definitely worth looking into. So I'm definitely gonna do, or more than likely do, an episode on Chip-chan. The third one is Yvette's Bridal Formal. This is a very strange website with a lot of links. Atrocity Guy's video on it goes into more detail, but I'll just summarize what they said in that video. So basically, this artist was hired to make a website for Yvette's Bridal Formal, but the guy who made it was also an artist, so he decided to kind of take some creative liberty and, make this website. However, the owners of the shop were not happy with the work, therefore they decided to distance themselves from the website. Like I said, Atrocity Guide does go into more detail, but this is another one where it's weird because this guy was hired to do this job, but then it turned out to be like not what someone wanted. Next is thisman.org. Now, I feel like I've covered This Man in the past. Thisman.org is a site that claims that many people dream of this man every night. It did turn out to be a hoax by Italian sociologist and marketer Andrea Natella. He created the site back in 2008. And there was even a creepypasta that was written surrounding this man. And there's definitely something unsettling about the drawing of this man. If I remember, I will post a picture of him on my Instagram and Blue Sky. Next is Junko Junsui. Yet another ARG that seemed to start with what appeared to be a live feed of a girl in a cell. It is very controversial as it seems to put people in danger. However, one of the co-creators has come out and spoke saying that it was completely fictional and that no one was in danger. Again, this is another one where a lot of YouTubers have talked about it. I will try to choose one to put in the show notes. If not, you can just go to YouTube and watch whatever video comes up because this is a very interesting ARG. Next is the mysterious internet song. It might have also gone under the name The Most Mysterious Song on the Internet, but this is a now solved case that started with an upload in the early 2000s. The recording was from the 1980s and a lot of people couldn't tell where the audio was from, which makes sense because the recording was off of a cassette. But finally, after a 17-year long search, it was revealed to be Subways of Your Mind by the band Fex. Number 7 is JohnTitor.com. This is a website dedicated to the alleged time travel John Titor. The site's last update seems to be from April 4th, 2011, and while it doesn't seem to be inherently active, it's definitely still up. Astonishing Legends does a great episode covering John Titor himself, as well as other time travelers or alleged time travels, and I highly recommend that episode. Next is the Markovian Parallax Denigrate. Messages were posted on Usenet in 1996. Every single message appeared to be completely in gibberish and were all labeled with the subject line Markovian Parallax Denigrate. Nobody could tell if it was like a secret message or something like that, so it's still kind of unsolved, I guess you could say, but it's very strange for sure. Number 9 is Karen Catherine Waldegrave. In 2011, hundreds of posts were made on Waldegrave's Facebook page. It all read like a conspiracy theorist. The most concerning part, however, were the replies she made to herself. There were about 500 to 700 comments within a 12-hour period. When I did look up Karen Catherine Waldegrave on Facebook myself, I couldn't find the specific Facebook page or like the page that like would be most closely aligned, so it's possible that the original Karen Catherine Waldegrave Facebook page is now down. The next one is the Heaven's Gate website. If you don't know about Heaven's Gate, I will try to find a YouTube video about them, but there's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about them as well. But basically, it was a cult that committed mass suicide in 1997. And to recruit members, they did have a website that appears to definitely be up for sure, and it seems to be active. I know that like a few people within the last like at least 5 to 6 years have tried to get like a book that's related to Heaven's Gate from the website, and they did receive it. So while I'm not sure if it still belongs to someone who was in Heaven's Gate, it just, to me, it's like clear that someone's like at least keeping it up. And finally, for tier 2, Bitterroot footage. I will try to post this one in the show notes as well, the actual video, but this one popped up online in 2012 and was posted by someone who claimed to get a bunch of items from Craigslist, which include an 8mm found footage film. Some believe it is some sort of ARG or hoax or just an art project, but it is still creepy nonetheless. Tier 3 is where it became a little bit harder for me to, it started to become a little harder for me to get information about some of these topics. So, like I said, if you want to know what every single topic was that was on this chart, it's linked in the show notes. But the first topic in Tier 3 is Lake City Quiet Pills. A mystery surrounds an image sharing site called LakeCityQuietPills.com. It is / was believed to have been run by Redditor u/Religion of Peace. It was also speculated to have been a front for ex-military assassins, and that seems to be the leading theory to this day from what I personally could find. A858 is the next one, and it was a previously unresolved mystery. That was until someone came forward and admitted that he was hired to post puzzles by an unnamed and unknown company. So I guess it's really only semi-resolved because no one knows who this company is, who this person's employer was, and what the purpose of all these puzzles that were posted, what they were for. Next is superbad.com. This is another strange website, but make it a little different. It's a web art installation by graphic designer Ben Benjamin in 1997 and is still active. It even won an Emmy. It even won a Webby in 1999 in the weird category. Besides being a web art piece, I'm not entirely sure if there's a greater purpose to it. Not that there needs to be, but Ben Benjamin's not selling any merch or really anything on this website. So besides being a very interesting web art installation, there's not much else about it. Erratas. Now, this is a topic that I know don't look under the internet did that podcast, and I think they did a really good job at covering it. But the long and short of it is the fact that it's a meme originating on 4chan. It seems like there's like not much known beyond that. But the way the meme was circulated, it almost seems like it was almost implied or even just straight up stated that employees of certain companies were allegedly fired if the algorithm's name showed up in the file history. Next is Publius Enigma. This is a still unsolved internet phenomenon. It started with cryptic messages by Usenet user Publius. It was posted in the Usenet group alt.music.pink-floyd. Publius proposed a riddle in connection with the 1994 Pink Floyd album Division Bell. Publius promised a reward for anyone who gave the correct answer, but it seems like no one has come forward as of me recording this episode. Next is Human Being 15. This seems to be someone who was a P. Diddy stalker. There was only one video on their YouTube account from 10 years ago showing piles of notebooks. I tried to look up P. Diddy stalker, but that same video kind of just came up for me, so it's possible that there is more information on it, but I just couldn't find it. So the last one I'm talking about for tier 3 is Happy Valley Dream Survey. Posters started showing up asking for people to call a number and talk about the dreams they remember. They could also text a number, and when questions were asked, sometimes a person would get a reply along the lines of, "You have to ask the right questions." Now, let me just bring up some honorable mentions from tier 3. Those are 973EHTNAMUH973, as well as www.nobodyhere.com/justme. Now, these are both just websites where the 973 one is just a creepy website created by a mathematician, and the nobodyhere.com one almost feels very liminal, and it is a site with animations and poems. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on either of them, but I just felt it was cool to mention them because both of them are kind of creepy, but in different ways. All right, so we're halfway through the iceberg. We are hitting tier 4 now, and to start tier 4 off, we have normalpornfornormalpeople.com. This is a creepypasta that claims a website is shared around that has different, very weird photos. The most popular and probably the most sought after video is about a chimpanzee that beats a woman to death. I feel like I've covered this in my creepypasta iceberg episode, and I might have gone into more depth. I don't remember. But as far as creepypastas goes, this is the other one that I think is semi-true. Maybe not for the chimpanzee video, but from what I could find, it did actually exist at one point. But as far as it existing now, I couldn't find a lot of evidence, and if it does exist, it's not in the same capacity as it existed when it was first up. Next is Tennyson. It can't be clearly explained, but this is what is known and the most likely explanation of what it is. Tennyson is a meme that originated on the Japanese site 2channel. It appears to be a fad of trolling other people with strange images and or statements. I couldn't find an example, but it's definitely something, again, worth looking into. Next is Mortis.com. This is a website that seems to be, or at least seemed to be, owned by someone going by the name of Thomas Ling. No one knows if this is the true name of the owner, but what is known is that this site was password protected and had a bunch of folders which were also password protected. 4chaners who were able to find this out also discovered that he owned other sites like Cthulhu.net, KarenLing.org, and JoshuaLing.org. Not too much is known beyond that. Podcasts like Red Web and YouTubers like Barely Sociable have covered this website in depth. And a little bit, I think in tier 5 or 6, there is a mention of Cthulhu.net. But as far as I could find, Cthulhu.net, like there doesn't really exist, at least not anymore, and I couldn't find any information on Cthulhu.net beyond being connected with Mortis.com. The fourth topic in this tier is Lex the Wonder Dog. This is a lost short film from 1973. It was written by, directed by, and starred Sidney Ling when he was just 13 years old. He even claims to hold the Guinness World Record for being the youngest writer and director of a movie. That being said, I couldn't find much else on this topic beyond the fact that much of what we know about Sidney and his life comes directly from him. And take that statement how you will, interpret it how you will. LHOHQ. It stands for Laughing Horses Orifice Headquarters. I will be linking a video, and it's been a while since I've heard him pronounce his username, but it's Blame It on George or Blame It on Jorge. He did a great video on this subject where he describes it as the most dangerous rabbit hole. This is a very strange website with tons of text on the homepage. If you choose to investigate, be aware that there is flashing lights, nudity, and potentially other things that one may be sensitive to. I couldn't get past the flashing lights myself. Next is the M Cave Vlogs. Now, this is a very popular topic. You might know it under Kenny Veach case, or you might even have just heard of Kenny Veach. He was an avid hiker, and on one of his hikes, Kenny found a cave near Nellis Air Force Base. He stated that it looked like a perfect capital M. He did try to find it again, armed with a gun and a video camera. When he posted the video, Kenny received a cryptic comment that read, "No, do not go back there. If you find that entrance, don't go in, you won't get out." He went back on November 22nd, 2014, stating that he'd be going on an overnight trip. He'd unfortunately never returned. Upon searching for Kenny Veach, the investigation found his phone, but that's where everything just went cold. Kenny's girlfriend stated that he did not take his camera and had quit his jobs a few days prior to his final trip, so that led her to believe that he committed suicide somewhere he would not be found. And honestly, the more I looked into Kenny's case, that just seems like the most logical explanation. Like, maybe he went to one of the caves he found on his hike, or just went to like one of the more secluded places on his hike, one of his hikes where he decided to end it all. But then where's the body? At the point of recording this episode, it's been pretty much 11 years, so it's like I can't help but think, where's the body? The glitter conspiracy. Now this one is like kind of a little bit more lighthearted compared to other things that I've covered and even just in this episode, but it basically states that the largest buyer of glitter is a secret. However, there was a podcast titled Endless Thread that revealed that the largest buyer of glitter is a boat manufacturer. Now, this is one that I don't necessarily have a lot of information on. I didn't want to bring it up because it does have a solution, and I thought it was worth mentioning said solution. The next one in tier 4 is Magibon.com. Magibon is a former YouTuber who ended up getting a stalker that went by Frank. This Frank character created a website with, at least from what I could find, 3 videos. I could not watch more than a few seconds of the first one, as it is definitely super creepy. And when I did start watching these videos, I will admit, it was probably close to like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning for me, and I didn't want to deal with the creepiness. And finally, the last one that I'm covering for tier 4 is Jody.org. Now, this is another kind of like weird site. It is an art collective of 2 artists named Joan Heemskirk and Dirk Paesmans. The web art has intricate designs made out of basic HTML, and it's actually pretty cool. I think it's worth checking out. I also found that Jody, it's spelled Jodi, comes from, if you couldn't tell, from Joan and Dirk's first 2 letters of their name. So J-O for Joan and D-I for Dirk. All right, so we're finally in the depths with tier 5. We're starting tier 5 off with Sentimental Core. Based on my own little dive into this website, this seems to be some weird art piece. It is a website with some weird and scary videos, so please view at your own risk, and please don't do what I did and look at it in the middle of the night. The second one is Fandom Wiki Circumcision Meltdown. Because the chart didn't necessarily specify which fandom this is, I can't 100% guarantee that the Silent Hill circumcision incident is the one that B on is talking about. However, it is the only thing that I could find info on, so I'm about 90% sure that this is what they are talking about. Basically, an admin of the wiki believed that Silent Hill was advocating for male circumcision, but the internet pretty much jumped right on this and seemed to all agree that circumcision had and still has nothing to do with the game. Next is blankroomsoup.avi. This is a minute-long video of a crying man in a room with white walls. He is eating soup with a comically large spoon. Two people walk in and they are in these like character costumes, and they pat this man's back and stand above him. Turns out that these costumes are ones of a character named Ray Ray. And it seems as though the most likely explanation around this video just surrounds the creator of Ray Ray, Raymond S. Percy, where he kind of made this video to kind of, promote his character, to promote a different project. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like it was some sort of like just weird video that was made, basically. Next is The Fifth Nail. This is a blog that was kept up by criminal Joseph Edward Duncan. He maintained it before he was arrested for murder. The lore behind the phrase "the fifth nail" revolves around the story of Jesus' crucifixion. There were 4 nails. The Romans used 4 nails to put him on the cross, but according to the story, there was apparently a 5th one that the Romans took and hid. On his blog, he talked about his day-to-day life as a convicted sex offender, while also maintaining that he was not and never was a pedophile. After Duncan got sent to jail for the murders, he had another blog titled Joseph E. Duncan III Returns to the Web from Federal Death Row to expose the meaning of the 5th nail. The posts were uploaded by someone going under the pseudonym Silenced. It was assumed that they were receiving letters from Duncan to post on his behalf. However, Duncan's public defender could not confirm nor deny this accusation, as at least at the time where Duncan was being held, no inmates were allowed to have access to the internet, and it's hard to know if the letters that were sent were word for word or anything like that. So Duncan's public defender and like anyone else who worked on the case cannot confirm nor deny anything being true. Next is the 4chan baboon story. An anonymous poster wrote on 4chan's B board in 2006 about a recurring nightmare that he had been having over 5 nights. The post reads as follows: Dear B, over the last 5 nights, I have had a reoccurring nightmare, and one that even reoccurred at least 3 times over a period of 5 hours, in which I am hungry and go to the kitchen in the middle of the night for a snack. During these dreams, I am convinced that I actually woke up from my sleep. When I finish eating and approach the kitchen sink to wash my hands, I look at the window and see the face of a sinister baboon peering into my window. And I scream like it's the last scream I will ever make in my mortal life, not unlike the end of AndyPeach.swf, but more premortal and deafening as my vocal cords rattle my skull into concussion. That's when I wake up and I am completely paralyzed. Only exhaustion rests me back to sleep. Disclaimer, the kitchen pictured is not my kitchen, and the baboon is only there for illustrative purposes. Any similarities to actual kitchens or baboons peering into your home windows are entirely coincidental. So that's the end of the post. If you choose to look up the story yourself, where the picture was that this user posted is kind of like the classic troll face, but what it seems like is like it showed a kitchen sink at night looking outside with a baboon looking in with red eyes. If you choose to look up the picture or like even like look at the one that I'm posting on socials, be warned, there is like a slight jump scare warning when you look at the picture. Next is Haunted Library Webcam. Again, this is another one where I am not 100% sure if this is the correct story, but it's the only thing that seems to be close to what this might be. So I'm choosing this. Willard Library in Evansville, Indiana is supposedly very haunted. There have been reports of a gray lady since the 1930s, and in recent years, at the very least more recent than the 1930s, they do have a page for their ghost cams on their site that you can watch yourself. Now, when I looked at these webcams myself, some of them did come back with the 502 gateway not found warning. So if you decide to look them up yourself, like I said, when I saw them, only some of them had that warning, but some did work. So you might get the same situation as I did. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. So in case you decide to look it up, you're not surprised. SLC Daycare Center is the next one. There is a Reddit post that I found this information on that I will link in the show notes, but according to said Reddit post, this is a real daycare center, or at least was a daycare center in Salt Lake City, Utah. There are apparently lots of urban legends surrounding it too, because there is a big lack of activity in the building. Some commenters have said that they have never seen any kids come in or out of the building, and it always seems closed. According to Aurora Sky 9, that building is really there and has even talked to some people who went there or had kids who went there. Those same people have said that there's absolutely nothing weird about the place. And basically that one Reddit post is like really like the most of the information that I could personally find. Next is Alex from Tennessee. An anonymous 4chan user posted coordinates where they had put prize. Someone simply going by Alex from Tennessee had enough time on his hands to check out these coordinates to get the prize. He found the location and filled his thread with pictures of said location. The OP posted that the prize was under plastic, and wouldn't you know it, Alex from Tennessee found something in a plastic bag. It was a mummified pelvis in a folded up paper plate. When he unfolded it, Alex discovered that the plate read, "Plate's a date, a very important date. You shouldn't have come. I lied." And as far as I can find, Alex from Tennessee still has yet to be heard from since these posts. And finally, Mostly Harmless. Now, for this one, I'm not specifically talking about the Douglas Adams book from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. It's a nickname given to a man whose real name was Vance Rodriguez. Now, it's totally possible that it is a nod to the book, but basically where that nickname comes from for Vance Rodriguez, he was hiking the Appalachian Trail prior to his death, and he made a lot of friends along the way with some hikers and campers, and one group said that he was welcome to join them as long as he doesn't bite, and Vance replied, "I'm mostly harmless," or something along those lines, and that's kind of where he got his nickname. He ended up making it to Florida, where his body was found on July 23rd, 2018, and it's totally possible he passed away before then, but that's just when his body was found. He wasn't identified until 2020 when a coworker recognized him from one of the many photos he was in. I also could not find a cause of death, but since he was alone, it could be like a number of things, and maybe he fell and couldn't get help. He got to Florida in July of 18, so despite that, he could have gotten, stricken by elements. I'm not entirely sure how he died. And finally, Tier 6. This is the one that I could find the least amount of information, but I didn't want to leave Tier 6 out completely. But let's get into Tier 6. So, for the first one, it's Angry Neighbor spelled backwards, basically. And it's a YouTube account that uploads audio of the user's neighbor. All of the audios don't seem angry despite the username, and no one knows what the purpose of the videos are. A lot of people have speculated that this person is a stalker obsessed with their neighbor, and each title kind of progressively gets a little bit more agitated as time goes on. Next is Godly Recon. This is the username of a YouTube channel back in 2006. The videos that were uploaded were of a girl who talks about her day-to-day life, almost like a video diary type of thing. The very last video was of her saying goodbye before her screams could be heard. Her channel seems to have been deleted, but some think that this was some sort of ARG or other unfiction thing. So what unfiction is, like, compared to like nonfiction or fiction, is that like it's hard for me to explain. It's like real life, but not quite real life. Kind of goes into the uncanny valley sort of thing, where it's like it's just not quite real, but not quite 100% fictional either. Next one is discharges.org. This is yet another shock site that was popular in the 2000s. It hosted flash animations that were shocking and upsetting. It was from the mid 2000s until 2010 and just ended up completely ceasing to exist in 2016. I'm not sure if it's available on the Wayback Machine, but in good consciousness, I cannot tell you to go look it up and try yourself. But what I can say is if you choose to look it up, please do so at your own discretion and be aware that it is a shock site. Next is John Lang. He was a man who lived in Fresno, California. His case is interesting because his manner of death seems to be the topic of debate. John exposed the police for some immoral practices, and even then, it wasn't some sort of big breakthrough. Just basically exposing that that police officers pull some people over and don't pull others over, basically, from what I could find. No matter the level of his exposing goes, John did claim that he was stalked by said officers before he eventually died. John Lang's death was ruled a suicide, and most people, at least in some of the threads that I read on Reddit, seem to believe that he really did commit suicide and he seemed to be having some sort of mental health crisis. And I also did read the autopsy report, at least some of it, and from what I saw, that does seem like the most likely contender for how John Lang passed away. The next topic in Tier 6 is Help with Advice. Looking into the YouTube channel, it seems like Help with Advice was, for all intents and purposes, a conspiracy theorist. The government is screwing us over type of thing. And they haven't posted or uploaded in 10 years, so I'm not entirely sure what the point of this channel was. Next is the WKCR hijacking. The radio station was allegedly hijacked during a mid-broadcast in 1995. It started with eerie screeches, followed by silence, and finally going into a woman reciting obituaries. After a few minutes, the radio station was able to take the signal back and continued airing as usual. And that is kind of why people almost believe that it's only allegedly hacked, that it's possible that they did it on purpose because they just went back to airing as if nothing happened. But I personally haven't heard the broadcast, so I can't say which way what I personally believe. But, if you hear the recording yourself, you can probably make up your own mind. Next is October 28, 2011.com. This site was shut down in 2015, but at its height led many people to talk about it. There was a countdown to October 28th, 2011, and had many cryptic messages on it. There's no known purpose, only theories. The biggest, or at least most talked about theory I could find was the apocalyptic countdown. So the apocalypse was supposed to happen on October 28th, 2011. And finally, the last one I could find any kind of information on for Tier 6 is NRIX. This is a fake disease that originated on a Thai website that I personally couldn't find. The site that now seems to be offline detailed the fictional disease and offered advice to those who were suffering from it. So, as I mentioned, anything that I said that I would definitely link in the show notes. I am going to do that, like the iceberg and the few videos and Reddit posts that I talked about. Yeah, and like I said, I couldn't find a lot of information on every single item that was in this iceberg, but I thought enough of it was interesting enough to talk about it. So if there's another iceberg you want me to look into, or just a general topic you want me to dive into, let me know, and I will talk to you guys next week. Stay safe out there.